welcome back to Two Funny Astronauts. I'm one of your co-hosts, Garrett Reisman.
And I'm the other co-host, Mike Massimino. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah. And we're friends.
We are friends. Still through this.
Still.
Through whatever how many episodes this has been.
Yeah. It's
we're
pretty
still
amazing.
Friends. Yeah. Pretty much a record.
Yes. But we're not just friends. We're also big Hollywood stars.
There's a lot of things you could have said there. I wasn't expecting big Hollywood stars. Why do you say that, Garrett?
Because on the last episode, you showed you got your SAG-AFTRA card.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I got my SAG-AFTRA. That's right.
Yes. Yes.
I'm a Screen Actors Guild, and whatever the AFTRA stands for.
That's right.
The TV Guild member.
And we both.
Did you get one of those cards?
I did not. I thought I was going to have to because I was a guest star on 2 episodes of For All Mankind,
Ooh.
and they said I was going to have to join the union, and then I called them and I talked to them, and it turns out that unless you're going to be doing this as a career, you don't have to. And they said, and then they said, and you got to pay dues. Those dues, how much do you pay every year?
Yeah, I know it depends on how much you make.
Oh,
so I think it's scaled to how much income you have. There's like certain. I think that's scaled somehow that way. I don't know how, if there's a minimum, but so
because then I could have then maybe I should have joined, because then maybe if because I make so little acting. Actually, I got a residuals check the other day. Do you get these residuals checks?
Yeah, I get some. A lot of them. I for most of the stuff I did, like with the Big Bang Theory, I don't get anything because I did it while I was an astronaut.
Oh.
And so for that, I couldn't accept any payment. But there were 2 episodes I did after leaving NASA, and those I get residuals. Yeah. Those are nice.
Those are nice. It's
not a lot of money, but...
No.
Yeah.
It's not much at all, but it's kind of like money for nothing.
I had a lawyer. A lawyer I worked with for a while said, "That you know what that is, Mike?" And I go, "What's that?" He goes, "That's mailbox money." That's what he said. You go to the mailbox, and you get money by going to the mailbox. Which is kind of cool, except now in direct deposit, you can't even do that.
No.
You gotta,
Oh, well.
So, but, I've been done some other stuff, though, too, like some commercials and other things. I think that, I guess there's reasons to do it and not, but overall, I think it's a good thing. It protects, it was... Not that we want to get off on this tangent, but I worked on a commercial one time. It was a MasterCard commercial, and it was a pretty big shoot. There was a lot of people in the background, and it was at the Intrepid Museum. It was a pretty cool commercial to do. It was fun, and I remember it was like a Friday night we did this, like after the museum was closed, and there was a lot of actors and men and women actors there. And they fed us because there's union rules. They have to feed you and your breaks and stuff. And I started looking around, the people I recognized a lot of these people that were there, a lot of the actors. And I was like, I think I recognize you from this and that and again. And they started rattling off all these things they were doing that they had been in. And what I thought was kind of, and I started, just asking about, and then, so why you guys, you guys, they had like roles where that they had speaking, and they were just in the background. And one guy was telling me that they'll do whatever they can. He was just they needed union actors to do this shoot, right?
Yeah.
And so they went there, and they had no speaking. They were just in the background. But what he was doing was they're building up. The more things they can do, they're building up their pension. They're able to get their medical insurance and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
So we look at it like you're saying. It's not necessarily a career for us. But there are people who support their family and trying to earn their retirement and everything else by acting. And so I thought that was kind of interesting because I recognize a lot of these people.
Yeah, and these guys
doing this stuff. And just in the background, and some of the other, even the guys who were kind of like the lead guys. I did something that was like I was an astronaut. It was like one of these things you get the credit card and you can get this experience by getting a tour of the Intrepid. And the actors that I did it with, I see this one guy, Kevin Kellner was his name, who played like the dad. And I see him. He's in a lot. He's like a kind of guy you would see in a lot of. I see him in shows, and I'll look. Yeah, that's him. There he is. So a lot of these people are out there earning a living, and other people like that, just working actors.
Yeah, and it's really hard
money to support their families. They're not stars necessarily, but yeah.
Right.
Sorry.
But even just to get to that level of character actor, it's really hard. There's a lot of people out there trying to do it, and you see a lot of them showing up as extras, on the sets,
right.
And they're hoping to get an opportunity, and they're hoping to at least, to get to build up more and more credibility. And even if they, and for one of those guys, they call them background. They don't call them extras. They call them background actors, right? So one of these background guys, if they, they would like kill to get like a role where they get to say a line. Even just one line, like, "Hey, how you doing?" That would be like, and the two of us schmucks, just because we have no talent as actors, or and just
watch it.
I'm just saying, it just falls in our lap, and we get to do this, and we're like, it's almost like we're at camp or something, or doing this as a goof, and these guys are like. How did you get to do this? And it's
well, because we're playing ourselves, right? Didn't you play yourself more or less?
I did. I did play myself, which is easy.
Yeah, I had Chuck Lorre, and Bill Prady, the Big Bang Theory stuff that I did. I remember I think it was Bill that called me up and said, "Hey, we'd like you to come in. We want to see if you can, if you can do this, say these lines." And he goes, "You'd be yourself." And I go, "I'm not an actor." And he goes, "Yeah. But you've been you for a really long time. We just need you to do that." So I thought that was pretty good.
So my character on For All Mankind, which is streaming now on Apple TV, Apple TV Plus. Please go subscribe to. After you subscribe to this podcast, please go and pay the $5 a month and get the Apple TV and watch the show.
Residuals, Garrett.
Residuals. Yeah, I know. Always working. But the character I played on there was it was a real stretch for me. I had to really go deep into the method to come up with my motivation and understand this character. And the name of the character that I played was astronaut Garrett Reisman. So I show up to this table read, which this is a long story. I'll have to tell you this whole thing, but I'll just tell you one little bit of it. I show up to this table read, and there's like hundreds of people there. It's this big thing. And they have
hundreds of people.
Yeah, because it turns out that it was like the first one of the episode or whatever, and they had, everybody was there for this one. And in this massive room, and it had this big table. It was like we're signing the Geneva Convention. There was like a big rectangular tables, and on one side, all the producers, the executive producers, and the head of Sony was there, and and on the other side was all the cast, and they had bleachers set up on the so everybody could watch, all the people that weren't part of the cast or big muckety muck producers. And so I sit down in the bleachers, and they're like, "What are you doing? You got to sit up there. You're in the cast." And I look up, and like there's the cast. There's like, we have like our star Joel Kinnaman, and it says on his name tag it says Joel Kinnaman, and then underneath his character's name Ed Baldwin, right? And then there's like Ren Schmidt and Margot Madison, and then I look over, and there's Garrett Reisman. That was my seat.
That's great. You got to keep that name tag, man.
I got it over. It's actually right over. It's right over here. I have it.
Yeah,
I'm holding on to it.
That's pretty cool.
But anyway, there's a lot more to talk about when it comes to scripted drama. But
you're bringing back some. I'm thinking of some of especially for me with the Big Bang Theory and the people I got to meet there, and some of those experiences. They're just unbelievable. But what are you going to say? We don't want to talk about that?
Well, I was going to talk about how we both got our start in late night, but maybe we should go with the scripted drama stuff and talk about the late night in another episode. What do you think?
Yeah, let's talk about let's talk about some more of the scripted stuff.
All right, cool. So tell me how the whole Big Bang thing started for you. How did that whole thing start?
That started. It was like the summer of 2011, right? So it was like the end of the shuttle program around that. But I think that's when it was. Yeah, I think that's when it was. I got a call from Bert Ulrich at NASA, and he said,
"Bert's great guy. Great guy, by the way.
Oh, wonderful guy. I was very good friends with him. Just a great guy.
I'm sure he is watching the. I'm sure he's watching the podcast. I'm sure he liked and subscribed. Yeah.
I'm sure he is. Hey, Bert, thanks for listening and watching. But Bert was like our liaison back then, and he still is with Hollywood. Where if someone's making a movie, whatever that movie might be, Space Cowboys or something like that, and they want to work with NASA, and NASA's usually for that. It's good publicity and for the space program. They'd work out an agreement of how to do that. Bert is the guy that kind of helps make those things happen, builds those relationships. So he called me up, and I was sitting at my desk, and the phone rings, and they go, "Hey, what's going on?" He says, "Mike, do you know about the Big Bang Theory?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it was this big giant explosion, and the universe is expanding, and all that kind of thing." Yeah. And he goes, "No, not the actual theory, but the TV show." And they must have been in like maybe their fourth or fifth season. So I was like, "Yeah, I think so." I think I've heard of it. He goes, "Well, it's a very positive show, and we really like it." And they want to send they had this idea of maybe trying to send one of their characters to space. I think the idea was put in their minds, believe it or not, by Lori Garver, who was our deputy administrator. Yeah, I think she was out there at a taping, or she met Bill Prady, one of the creators of the show, somewhere. Bill was always doing stuff like for the space program. He's getting married here, and I'm going to his wedding coming up here in like a week. But really great guy. And anyway, so I think she was at a something, an event or something with Bill, and she said, "Hey, you guys should think about working more with NASA." And he goes, "I love NASA." He goes, "Oh, maybe." So I think that's where the idea came from. And they said, "Well, maybe can we have one of the cast members go to space? And how could we do that?" And so Bert calls me up and says, "Do you mind speaking to these guys sometime?" And of course, they weren't going to send me anywhere. It was like I was in the neighborhood to stop by, but the neighborhood is Burbank, California. Right. It was out in L.A. Yeah. So, but Daniel, my son, was a water polo player in high school. At that time, he was playing in high school, and he was going out for a tournament out in Los Angeles. The Junior Olympics he was going out for. And I said, "Well, I'm going out there in a couple weeks. Maybe I can stop by then." And they're like, "Yeah, it was very loose. Like, yeah, whenever you just stop by, whenever. So in between games, and it wasn't even sure I was going to go by, because with the tournament, if he wins, I got to watch the game. And if he loses, I can go. It's like one of those things. Like, I don't know, and he lost or whatever. So I got, so I had the afternoon free, and I went down there to
Wait. When he lost, were you like, oh, good. Oh, bad. Oh, bad.
No, they kept playing. You always keep playing in these tournaments. It's just bracket changes.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even know if he won or lost. But you go here, you go there, you go, you're playing it, whatever it is. So we had an afternoon free, and so I went to the writers' room, which was really cool. And it was Chuck Lorre, who's this this legend in inventing TV shows like 2.5 Men and The Big Bang Theory. He did that with Bill Prady and other shows as well. I think he's got the Comiskey Method now. That's very popular. He's got all these hit shows that he's had over the years, and Bill has been very successful. They were like kind of leading the discussion, and around them are all these writers. The showrunner and the writers around there, and these are really smart people who are really funny.
Yes,
like. I don't know if we're really funny, or you and I are really funny, or really smart for astronauts, maybe. Maybe we're not smart for astronauts, but we're funny for whatever. But these are like really bright, smart people who are very funny.
They're legit, right?
I just told them a story. What's that?
I mean, it's really cool when you see somebody, in no matter what the field might be, but you meet people who are the very best, what they do. And it's always pretty awe-inspiring just to watch anybody. No matter, it could be like basket weaving, but somebody who's like the best in the world at it. It's really impressive to watch them do their thing. It's also humbling, right?
It's true. Yeah, right. And you see what they're able to do is whatever it is that you and I can do, whatever that is, spacewalk or do astronaut stuff. They're able to do that in their field. And yeah, you're right. It's pretty cool being around them. They all were just really creative and funny. And I was just telling them stories like we've been telling on the podcast, and they took notes about different things and so on. And then I was talking to Scorch, believe it or not, about the big. And he Scorch, our friend Charlie Hobaugh, the pilot, was liked the show. And I go, I just met with these guys. If you want to go see a taping, I'm sure we can arrange it. He goes, I'll do it. So we went out there. We saw a taping and helped them with the script. And got to know them, became friends with these guys. And about 6 months later, Bill Prady called me up and said, "Hey, Mike, we have an idea. We're interested if you might want to come on and do a cameo." And I was like, "Sure, I'd love to do that." So that's how that started, and ended up leading to a lot more. So So that's how that all came about.
That's cool. So I got to ask you though.
Yeah.
So given that you went to MIT, as you're a student there, did it really pain you to be on a show that was all about Caltech?
No, it was fine with me, man. But I think one of the characters, isn't one of them I think went to MIT but only got a master's degree, so he's ridiculed by the other guys. Isn't it that one of the storylines maybe?
I think
but it takes place. They work at JPL, Caltech.
Right.
No, it's all right, man. It's Hollywood.
Yeah.
Do you harbor ill feelings toward MIT for some reason?
No, I think that would be kind of like me, being part of like a TV show about the Red Sox or something. Like I just couldn't do that. Wasn't?
Oh, I don't know. I think Caltech's a great school. I never was educated there, but
okay,
certainly I would. Yeah, no, I had no problem with it.
All right, just checking.
Yeah. Would you have a problem with an MIT show? Is that what you're trying to tell me? What are we getting at here? Is this another ISS versus Hubble thing that I'm discovering about you? What is the?
It's all right. No,
what's
I understand.
the issue here?
Look, Caltech's not that big of a place. Not everybody can get in. You got to have other things, other opportunities.
You're right. It's very selective.
Right. So
very selective.
People have to have a place to go. I get it.
Right. We all need a place to go, Garrett. Don't be don't be so elitist about it.
No, get me wrong. MIT is a great trade school. It's a great.
Oh, I knew you went to Harvard.
What? Don't you get like a free set of tools when you graduate from MIT on your way out the door?
You're barking up the wrong tree here, man. You don't want to mess with that. You really don't want to mess with that school.
Sorry. Yeah, I know. Really, you might send Mike. You might send Mike Fink after me.
Well, no. I mean, there's that reputation. That school's pretty good, man.
Yeah, I suppose.
There's this one guy. Just to give you an idea, there was a guy up there named Richard Batten. Professor Batten's taught astrodynamics.
Wait. The guy from 8 is Enough.
No, he's the guy, not that guy. I think that's Dick Patton.
Yeah, and that what you said?
Name was Batten. You probably read his book.
Oh.
He wrote this book on astrodynamics.
Oh yeah, I think I did.
But anyway, did he write the book? Anyway, but he was an astrodynamics guy. That's what he taught. And out of the 12 guys that walked on the moon, 5 of them took his course. So he had 5 guys that walked on the moon took his class. Yeah,
fundamentals
of the book.
Fundamentals of astrodynamics.
The moon on it. Yeah, Fundamentals of Astrodynamics.
Yeah, with the LEM and the moon, that book?
Yeah.
I got that book.
That was the book he used. I don't think he wrote the book. I don't, but that's the book he used.
It's a good book.
So, yeah, it's a good book. But, yeah, so anyway, what the heck were we talking about?
We're talking
about we're talking about the Big Bang. So how many episodes were you in?
I was in 7 total. I was in really was 6, and then the seventh was like their last show. They included clips from the other shows or something like that. So I was included in that in some way. But yeah, it was really fun. I got to go to. So I consider that a space flight, Garrett, because I got to go to space station on a Soyuz on the Big Bang Theory. I've got a patch and everything from it. I told them so I did the first thing I did. It was about nicknames and giving Wolowitz a nickname.
Right, the Fruit Loops.
Fruit Loops. He wanted to be called Rocket Man, and I think that came from stories about how people get stuck with nicknames they don't like because they try to get another nickname. You remember there was a Japanese astronaut the guy that we called Binks. Do you remember Binks?
Binks.
You remember Binks? He was a Japanese astronaut, and the story that I heard was that he wanted to be called. They asked him if he had a nickname, and he said he wanted to be called Luke Skywalker because he liked Star Wars. And he said this to somebody he shouldn't have said it to.
Yeah.
Like he said it to Scorch or Brent Jett or someone like that. Who was like, no, I don't think like Star Wars. I don't think you should be. You should be Skywalker. He goes like first I think it was like you want to be called Luke Skywalker. And he goes like, yeah, like Star. And he said, "Yeah, no, I don't think that, but Star. Yeah, your name is Jar Jar Binks. That's what they called him, Binks, because Binks was everywhere. Like on the NBL when he was going to go die, his Binks was in, and everyone knew him by his Binks. So so I told him that story, and then so I think they kind of turned that around. But they liked the whole nickname thing. However, you get nicknames, and the character Wallowitz wanted to be called Rocket Man, and so he was trying to on a conference call they were having with me in the show, because part of the show was that he's playing Rocket Man in the background, and that's his theme song, and then his mother asks him if he wants Fruit Loops, and that's how he gets the name Fruit Loops. So
that's a very funny
the first episode.
And you delivered that line great. I got to tell you, you actually do have some talent there on camera.
Thanks.
That was funny. The timing of the Fruit Loops line
was important. That's one of the things that was interesting. That's interesting you mentioned that, because one of the things they said was that if you have good timing, you can't teach timing.
Yeah.
And that was really important in comedy, is being able to and the other thing that was interesting too, there's so many interesting things about it, but one, like working with Chuck and Bill and the director was a guy named Mark Sandrowski, and they were just, even with the lines, they were like, would you say it this way or that way, and trying to get it, and what just explaining what we were trying to get across and what they wanted from me, and it was just really interesting to see all that worked and how they coached more or less. The way I looked at them, they were like coaches for the whole cast, and to be part of that for those shows. And they gave me really simple lines that I was comfortable with saying. Whereas, like, the main Jim Parsons, his character had some really complicated lines, and that would have been nearly impossible. Sheldon had some serious lines, but anyway, so that's how I got involved. And then there's stories we could talk about just about every time I was out there with them. That was cool. The one I'll tell this last one because it reminds me of something that you said, and then we want to hear more about what you did, of course. But the thing you said about the table read, one of the really cool things they did, and we did table reads, but I don't know if you did this with your show, but we did some of the show was pre-shot, and then you would act out some of it. Some of the things we did, like in the Soyuz, that had to be filmed ahead of time that we didn't do in front of the live audience. But the whole thing had a whole process to it. Like Wednesday, it started where you would look at the script, and then they do the table read on Wednesday or Thursday. I can't remember. And then Friday, they did like some setting up of it. I didn't always show up for those parts of it, but they really needed me. Like usually come in on, because my parts were small, to come in on Monday and Tuesday, and I sometimes was there for the stuff the week before. But I'd be there Monday and Tuesday, where you would do the little bit of rehearsing, and then you would also like film some of it and go through the whole show Monday and Tuesday. And Tuesday night, they would film it in front of a live audience. So they'd bring a live audience in, and everyone was, you had the makeup done, and you're in your whatever you're going to wear. And what they did is they went into the makeup room, and you did a read from memory of the whole script. Oh. And it was only the cast. Mm-hmm. So like you say, getting included, it was just me with the other cast members, Mark Sandrowski, the director, and the script person, who was this woman who was sitting there with the script, in this loose leaf, and flipping the pages. And if you couldn't remember your line, she would give it to you. But what was so cool is that it wasn't like any acting. It was just going through the lines from start to finish. It took like 15 minutes. It was just so cool to be. It felt like one of those things like you're really on the inside. No one else is in the room. All those actors that everybody knows from the show is there. Everybody. I'm in there to deliver my couple lines as part of it. And
do you get
really cool.
like the imposter syndrome? You're like, what the heck am I doing here? Like, these guys are pros. Did you ever feel that at all? Or no, you were like, no, I got this.
In some way, in that, I wasn't. What it gave me was a real respect for what they do.
Yes.
And what was interesting is I remember Johnny Galecki, who was one of the stars of the show, telling me that he thought it'd be impossible. Like, he thought it was really cool I was doing, because he could never play himself. And I was like, Johnny, I could never act to do somebody else.
Yeah, right.
It could be me. I don't know how you do somebody else. So it was really interesting, and they were just so excited to have an astronaut on the set that I felt very welcomed. That and my role was not to be to be one of those roles. It was just to be me. So I don't know. I guess I did feel like like it was all new to me, but it was just so much fun. And everyone was so welcoming. I still get notes on my birthday from one of the wardrobe people. Say, hey, remember it's your birthday, blah, blah. So things. The friendships I made were just so great that I felt pretty comfortable. But I wasn't doing any real big scenes. That I would have been an imposter. Yeah. So I was just being me. Yeah. So
it's cool.
Anyway, how did you get involved with? Go ahead.
It's a long story, but I just one thing I was thinking about there was when you talk about how much respect you have for these people, at what they do, and how cool it is. Like I was saying before about being with anybody who's really good at what they do and watching them practice their craft is really fascinating. Yeah. But one thing, like when it was really driven home to me, so I got to be in a couple scenes. So for All Mankind, which is an alternate history science fiction TV show on Apple TV Plus, go subscribe. But but anyway, I'm the technical consultant. But then, like, I'm reading one of these scripts one day. I'm supposed to read all the scripts, and I give them notes on all the scripts, like line by line. I go through and I tell them, like, yeah, this makes sense, or no, this technically couldn't work this way. We should do something. So I go into that, and I'm reading the script, and all of a sudden this character pops up in the scene is astronaut Garrett Reisman. So I was like, what's this doing here? So I wrote an email to the executive producers, and I was like, Yeah, I see this new character, astronaut Garrett Reisman. Where are you going to find an actor handsome enough to pull this off, right? I mean, like
Scott Kelly.
I think he's Scott Kelly. I was like, I think Brad Pitt's busy. He's got another project, and Bruce Willis, or whatever. Where are you going to get a guy? And they're like, we have the perfect guy right in-house. I was like, no way. So I ended up being in a couple episodes on the camera, very tiny little scenes, little like this. My credit is guest star, and my wife is making fun of me. She's like, you're like the guys on a Love Boat. You're like Charo or like Red Buttons. Guest star this week, Charo.
Look that up, kids. If you know him, you don't know who Charo is. Look that up. Yeah, she was very popular back in the 70s.
Very popular back then. Yeah.
As was the Love Boat.
So yeah. Oh man, I'm dating myself. But anyway, so
that's good.
But it's really like a cameo because it's too brief. And so I had these couple scenes. In one scene, I'm the commander of the space shuttle, not to give away too many spoilers, but we come back to Earth, and we're emerging from the CTV, the crew transfer vehicle, right? This is like the funny looking. It's like if you ever go to Dulles Airport, they have these people movers that are like big trailers are like on these like scissor lifts that go up and they can go up and then they come down. They can go up and down.
It's like a gigantic room.
It's like a big room.
Yeah. I don't know I don't know if any other airport I've been in has those things.
No, it's just Dulles, and we had one for the space shuttle, and I think that's the only place I've ever seen this thing.
Yeah,
but we're supposed to be in that.
I don't like those things, by the way. Those things I like the space shuttle, but those things it's like it's like a weird kind of thing.
Yeah, Subway would be just as good. I don't know why they didn't go with that.
I don't like those things.
But we're in that. So we're supposed to be in that thing after we land, and then we have to go out and walk across a tarmac and have this little press conference. Like a crew welcome home thing. That's the scene. And I'm in there with a couple of our stars, and one of them is Sonia Wagner, who plays Molly Cobb is her character on the show. Molly Cobb. And without going into, you don't need to know anything really about the plot or anything, but just this character in this scene is having like the worst day of her life. Things are going really, really bad for her, right? And we're like sitting in this trailer waiting, because when you're on the set, there's a lot of waiting, right? It's mostly waiting. It's waiting, and then 5 minutes of excitement, and wait.
That's why you need good catering.
Yes. Yeah, the craft services
in a dressing room, but yeah.
Yes, I had my. Did you have a trailer? I had my own trailer. Did you get a trailer?
I had a trailer. There was they had each one of the stars of the show, like Jim Parsons and Kaylee Cuoco and Kunal and all those guys. Melissa. Everybody had Mayim. Been even very popular since the show as well. It was like there was a second level, you'd walk up the stairs on one side of the building, and each had a dressing room. And there was one guy, Stuart Sussman, I think if you watch this show, he has like the comic book shop. right? And he was on, I don't know how many shows he was on. He was there sometimes and sometimes not. But if there wasn't any other guest star there, I would get that dressing room. Which is pretty cool because it had like a little, it had like its own bathroom and it had like a little, like a couch kind of you could sleep on if you want to take a nap and a TV and some place you could put your stuff. But when he was there, I was in the driveway more or less, which was cool too. It was a trailer. It was outside. You had a trailer instead of being inside the sound stage, I guess.
We were on location, so we all had trailers, but also even on the lot, because we shoot at the Sony lot in Culver City. So and even on the lot, it's all trailers because on this it's the old historic MGM lot, and they didn't have dressing rooms built in. But anyway, so I'm sitting there, and we're sitting in this waiting around for the scene, and while we're waiting, we're just having a good time. And Jodie Balfour was there; she's another one of our stars, and so the four of us that were in the scene, we're just goofing around like this, we're just cracking wise, we're making jokes. They're comparing notes. They're on like the different. I know. I probably shouldn't. I shouldn't say this. I got to protect the innocents. I won't tell you what but they're gossiping. They're gossiping, and we're joking around, and we're cracking up, or we're like laughing like crazy. We're having a great time, and then they say action, and we walk out there. And at one point, I got in the blocking way. At one point, I got to turn around and look at her right in the eye, Sonia. It's part of the scene. I'm just I'm like, I'm the commander of the shuttle. I'm astronaut Reisman. Hey, good to be back on Earth. Yay, hey, thanks. And I turn around and I have to look at her in the eye. And when I turn around, this woman who I was just joking around with and cracking up and laughing our heads off, I look in her eyes and I see a person who is having the worst day of their life. And she was able, as soon as I said action, she was just able to flip a switch and just without saying a word, in her posture and her mannerisms and her facial expression, convey such misery. It kind of freaked me out. I'm like, how do you do that? And because I was just joking around with you.
Looking at you while this happened?
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah, well. Yeah. All right. Maybe that says something, but
sorry.
But I'm looking and I would like it kind of freaked me out every time, that like, how does she do that? I was just amazed at how talented she was. And that goes for all the members of our cast. I mean, it's amazing watching them do all this. But that one moment will stay with me because that just really drove it home.
Yeah, no, there's really something to all this. And yeah, I agree. They're able to do things that really require lots of talent and I think a lot of work and a lot of training in most cases too. They've been working at it for a while, and there's a lot of them out there. Like we were saying, there are a lot of really talented actors out there who we see occasionally, maybe, or never really come to the forefront of someone we'll be able to know about that are really talented, but they're out there doing it, trying to earn a living. Yeah.
And then you see these some that just have so much talent, and It's just really shocking, and the same thing goes, like you say, like in their writers' room. But before I go there, I just so I had a couple of different scenes, and Sonia actually coached me through. We had another scene together. Now we're in space, and she's suspended in this harness, to simulate zero gravity. They use these wires, and green screens and all that kind of stuff. And I'm sitting in the commander's seat of the space shuttle, so I'm like, I just got a regular seat. I'm comfy. These harnesses are not comfortable, and when you shoot one of these scenes, you shoot it again and again and again because we're inside this set, and they shoot it with the camera like looking through this window, and then they take the set apart, and the camera comes in this way because they have to get multiple angles on every shot, and we have to do it over and over and over again. Right, and sometimes they have a wide shot. Sometimes it's a close up on Sonia or a close up on me or whatever. And so like to get this one scene, which is like it's on screen for 30 seconds. It takes like a whole afternoon, right, to do this. And so she's in this thing for this a long time. And I got this one line in the scene. And in the beginning, I'm about to do this Delta V burn with using the OMS engines in the shuttle, right? So I'm reading. I whipped out my old procedure, and I'm actually going through the procedure, and I'm like, okay, arm execute item 24, and I'm punching it in, and I go through all this technical stuff, and then I have to turn around and tell her to get in her seat and put her seatbelt on because we're about to light the engines up.
Yeah,
and I'm struggling.
I've seen it. Very good.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, are you kidding?
But the reason it's good is because of Sonia. It's not because of so. If it came out well and believable, I was struggling because I would say this line, which is the line was, "All right, Cobb, time to strap in," and I would say that, and it would come out kind of artificial because I'm not an actor. I don't know what I'm doing. And she says, I sat with her like before we shot this thing, and I said, help me out here. And she goes, okay, listen, pretend when you're saying this that you're telling your son, because in the scene, I'm telling her she's got to leave, and she doesn't want to leave the moon. She doesn't want to go back to Earth. She wants to stay on the moon. Mm-hmm. So I got to tell her it's time to go, and she doesn't want to hear this. So she says, listen, pretend you're telling your son Buster, after a long day at Disneyland, that it's time to go home. And it's going to break his heart, but you're the parent, and you're doing the responsible thing. You're being the good dad, doing your job as a dad, and telling him it's time to go. And that's what I was thinking. So I had that in my head as I delivered that line, and it worked. It actually made it sound a lot better. So she really helped me out with that. But cool. So I'm doing this, and we're doing this like for hours. And she's like got bruises where this harness has been, rubbing up against her for hours. And on take number like 15, I flub my line. Like I got to do this deorbit burn thing, and I screw it up, and I'm like cut, and the duct director's cut. And I'm like, oh, and she looks at me and she goes, damn it, Reisman, you had one fucking line. And I'm like, I know, but like, who talks like this? I'm like, who wrote this shit?
Like, you did. Didn't you write it?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Who wrote this shit? That was funny.
There you go. Really you had that one line.
One lousy line.
Yeah.
That line was terrifying, though.
All right. So, Garrett, what was that line you said? You had the one line, and questionably how you delivered it. But what was it again?
Cobb, time to strap in.
Time to strap in, because it was time to go home.
That's right.
And that's where we are. This podcast. It's for us to go home.
Time for us to go home. All right, everybody. So
Thanks.
It is time to go home. And thank you very much for joining us. Please like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. Give us your comments. We're listening.
Yes.
Or reading them. Thank you very much for tuning in. We're
listening.
Thank you.
We're listening with our eyes.
Thanks, folks.
See you next time.